Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into one I haven't done in a few months, and I am very excited indeed. It's always exciting to jump in to a new beer from Hubbard's Cave. So this is their vanilla coffee and cakes. I've done their coffee and cakes sometime in the last year. They're standard. This is the vanilla version. So this is an imperial stout. They do a ton of stouts and a ton of IPAs. Most of the stouts I've had from them have been milk stouts, but this is not. This is just a standard flavored stout in imperial form. So coffee and cakes, that's like a stack of pancakes, flapjacks, if you will, to go with your cup of coffee. So this one's been flavored with coffee, maple syrup, and vanilla, as pretty much all of their stouts are. It's 12% ABV. I'm going to double check on the can, make sure I'm not losing my mind. Somewhere on here it's going to tell me. It actually doesn't. Yeah, it does. 12% by volume. I didn't even look it up. I just assumed, because literally 100% of their stouts I've reviewed of any kind have been 12% ABV. They use the same base recipe for their stouts and they tweak them. And they end up with this endless, massive library of recipes for all sorts of distinctly different stouts. I think that's a really genius move for a small craft brewer. So, vanilla coffee and cakes. 12% ABV, coffee, maple syrup, vanilla. They're based in Niles, Illinois. That's a burb of Chicago. In terms of label art, this one's actually slightly more interesting than we often get from them. So it's got a steaming hot cup of coffee and a stack of buttery, gooey pancakes sitting there on the side. Really gets you in the mood. I absolutely love Hubbard's Cave. Their stouts are absolutely incredible. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm going to be gentle as I crack this. Gentle. Okay, good. And their beers are very thick. Very thick. So I've got to be quite aggressive to give it even a snowball's chance at forming a decent head. They're very thick, very dark. Their head and retention is not the best for a stout, if I'm honest. You can tell as I'm glugging this into the glass just how ridiculously thick that is. It looks like syrup as you're pouring it out. They've got a ton of body and a ton of resistance on the mouthfeel. So, now that is in the glass, it's still a good foot and a half away from me. I can tell you, as always, the aroma is positively intense. It is max intensity of aroma. And yeah, I think I just found the trick for properly pouring a Hubbard's Cave. Start it off and just go straight down. We're talking 90-degree angle into the glass, straight down. Just let it drop. Be aggressive with it. And it formed this. Look at that. That's like a Guinness head. Just this thick, pillowy, lush, fluffy, creamy head on top. That's what you hope to see. So let's visually examine. As expected, it's pitch black. They always are from Hubbard's Cave. Let's give a real deep sniff here. Oh, man. Okay, so I can tell you, aside from the pungency of aroma, when you get right in and give a deep sniff and really think about what it is you're smelling, 100% exactly as advertised. And this is very common with their beers. I've had enough of their stouts over the last few years here that I can tell you that's their thing. So, very roasty malt bill. It's very evident. The coffee comes right out at you. The maple comes right out at you. The vanilla is a little more subdued. It's on the back end, but it's there. So you can smell all of the component parts. This delicious, intense, gigantic roasty malt bill, coffee, maple syrup, vanilla. It's exactly as advertised. So let's just jump right in and see what this vanilla version of coffee and cakes is like. I've had the standard coffee and cakes. Let's try the first flavored variant. Okay. Oh, man. Oh, gosh. I was about to say what a mess it made in my beard, and then I just was overwhelmed with the intensity and deliciousness of what I got, and it just didn't matter anymore. All right, so immediately upon getting this in my mouth and starting to agitate around the palate, let the flavors coat the palate, That's the best way to really sample a beer. Just get a small sip, swish it around, really swish it around. Be aggressive with it. It's going to open up all the bits and pieces into that beer and really just coat the entire palate with nicely aerated, just beery goodness. On this one, the first thing I got was a suggestion of sweetness. It's not a milk stout, but it's got a little suggestion of sweetness, and that's really coming very strongly from the maple syrup addition, as you might expect, in tandem with the vanilla. That was the very first thing I tasted, maple plus vanilla. So 2/3 of the additives are really coming through. After I swallowed, that sweet sensation settled down, took about 2 seconds, and then that massive, intense roast malt bill just started to blossom. And it wasn't like a boom boom. It was a very gradual, subtle, then kind of blooming. So exactly as I described. And the coffee, as maybe you would expect, does 100% pair and bind to the deep roasty edge to the malt bill. Now, I said this the first time I had one of their non-milk stouts. I was really taken aback at just how stellar a bill that they use for their stouts. And it's incredible. Their milk stouts are among the best I've ever had. No question about it, and I love them. I'm not the biggest milk stout fan, but I like to drink a lot of different beers, even things I wouldn't normally just drink for, a 12-pack for pleasure at home, because I like to give people, everybody's got different tastes. That's the point of the channel. Hit as many different types of beers as we can. But I was so pleasantly astounded and surprised by how really, truly good, spectacularly good their base malt bill selection is for their stouts that they use. Without the lactose, you get all that roastiness. It's a big, bold, intense roast on this malt bill. It's very intense. It's not smoky at all. It's not the intensity of, say, a French roast coffee bean or an Italian roast coffee bean on the edge of being burned, before the smoke point and it's pulled. It's not that. But it's just deep, deep dark black. If you're a Starbucks fan and you've had from the store, get yourself a Venti. Yes, that word is Venti. It is Italian, V-E-N-T-I, Venti. Get yourself a Venti Pike Place. Just the standard Pike Place. They're kind of go-to de facto. It's always being brewed. Coffee, black. Drink that. That is their malt bill. That intensity of roast, that intensity of earthiness, that intensity of flavor, that's exactly what they bring into their beer with their malt selection and the combination and the volume into their beers, and it's absolutely tremendous. So really, this is more or less exactly what I expected it would be, and I've been saving this one for admittedly several weeks now. And today was the time, and I'm glad I got to jump into it because it's exactly what I expected. So I'm going to jump back in for body and mouthfeel, let the flavors intensify on second sip, really pick apart the finish, and just see if there's anything else critical that I might have missed on first sip. It's so good. That's a medium heavy body. Very heavy, very weighty. Medium heavy on the border of being heavy. Very thick, viscous, resistant mouthfeel. Very creamy and velvety when you agitate around the palate, bordering on silky. Exactly what I expect from a Hubbard's Cave Stout. That maple and that vanilla, as soon as you start to agitate, that's really what the random taste buds, before you swallow and the air comes through your nasal. Taste is obviously, as we all know, dominantly related to the nose. It's your olfactory senses and organs working in tandem. So without nose, you have no taste. So really, before you swallow fully and can get air traveling back down through the system, you're not going to pick up all of the flavors. That's why you pick up some stuff, but it opens up and intensifies after you swallow. It's because you finally are bringing air back in and breathing again. So vanilla and maple up front first as you start to agitate. You really get the sense of that viscosity in the mouthfeel. You swallow that maple and the vanilla, they die down pretty quickly. then the roastiness just starts to bloom and the coffee opens up and binds to it. And it's just tremendous. Really, all it did was intensify on second sip. Everything I got on the very first sip was just intensified on the second sip, and I am not complaining. That body, nice, medium heavy. It's right on the border. Big, weighty. It's an imperial stout at 12%. Is exactly where you'd think it would be. Mouthfeel, very resistant, very viscous, but on agitation, it's silky, creamy, velvety smooth. It is absolutely just well put together stout. They always do a great job. This is no exception. I'm going to take my time, sip on this one, come up with my scores. When we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. Again, this is Hubbard's Cave Vanilla Coffee and Cakes, an Imperial Stout clocking in at 12% ABV, brewed with coffee, maple syrup, and vanilla. Hubbard's Cave is based in Niles, Illinois. So starting with the aroma, I mean, I've had so many of their different stouts, I've come to expect this. The aroma is extremely intense. The minute you crack it and start to pour it, you just get hit right in the face with all those additive ingredients. This was no exception. Smelled absolutely fantastic. Could pick up the aroma of all the added ingredients, and the pungency was just huge. Aroma gets a 10 out of 10. For the taste, very, very well put together stout. Okay, all of the added ingredients, the coffee, the maple syrup, the vanilla, they all worked in symbiosis. And this is a beer that has a very deeply, richly roasted malt bill. So all of these intense, rich flavors really play well into that really quality malt bill that they have. Absolutely fantastic. Taste gets a 10 out of 10. For the body, as expected, again, I've come to expect this from Hubbard's Caves. It's just a huge body. It's a very, very heavy stout. 12% ABV. It's an imperial that's up there in the range, but the body is as big as you'd expect it to be. Body does get a 10 out of 10. For the mouthfeel on this thing is very resistant, very viscous, almost syrupy in the way that it feels moving across the palate. This, again, is another thing I've come to expect from Hubbard's Cave, and you could see as I was pouring it into the glass just how thick it is, almost molasses thick. Mouthfeel does get a perfect 10 out of 10. For the finish on this was longer than average, though as pungent and bold as the flavors are, you know, without something like a barrel aging to have that kind of intensity of a boozy kick to help push it out, frankly, it did a good job for what it is. Certainly longer than average, but we're not talking top tier, you know, barrel-aged version of a stout. It was a nice, bold, intense flavor that had a longer than average finish. Finish does get a 7 out of 10. For the head and the retention, this one did an absolutely fantastic job. Easily could have been pulled from a nitro tap. Head and retention does get a 10 out of 10. For the appearance, absolutely pitch black. Appearance gets a 10 out of 10. For the balance on this I thought was absolutely phenomenal. Again, I've had a lot of their milk stouts, a lot of their normal stouts, all of which have been flavored, and these flavors really worked well together, and I could pick all of them out. The coffee, the maple syrup, and the vanilla, they all had their own voice, as did the malt bill. That's exactly what you hope for. Balance does get a perfect 10 out of 10. Feeling in the intangible, subjectively, I loved it. I'm a big fan of their beers. They've yet to do me wrong. Subjectively, it gets a 10 out of 10. Finally, is an example of the style. This, I think, is just a really great example of what a flavored imperial stout can be. They pick their ingredients very well, pick ones that go well together, and then have a quality base beer upon which to build all these layers of flavor. Honestly, it doesn't get much better than that. Example of a style gets a 10 out of 10, which brings the total score on Hubbard's Cave Vanilla Coffee and Cakes to a 97 out of 100. So this is just about perfect flavored imperial stout for my money. Very, very high score, well earned. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, you can turn on the notifications, hit that bell icon. It is right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.